This moving, music-filled story really inspired me. It depicts devastating effects of climate change, including forced migration. But the Great Green Wall is a hopeful, large-scale project running through Africa's Sahel region. At one point, the Great Green Wall is described as a metaphor. As you watch, I invite you to think about what the Great Green Wall could be a metaphor for. I don't want to proceed any further without taking the opportunity to thank our sponsors and our partners. So thanks so much to St. Benedict the African, Old St. Patrick's Church in Chicago, the United Nations Association of the United States, and the DOS Global Conservation Foundation. We couldn't do this work without you. Thank you for your support. Another quick note, if your circumstances allow, please donate to support One Earth's nonprofit year-round screening events, youth programs, and more at oneearthfilmfest.org.
We are thrilled you're with us as One Earth Film Fest celebrates 10 years of inspiring change and utilizes the power of film to spark change on topics of environment and those intersected with environment, like social justice. The fest has had to adapt to a virtual format, but we strive to stay true to our model. While we're not physically together, we are here together, live, virtually, still able to create community, become aware of issues, engage in dialogue, and be inspired to act. African-American activist Angela Davis said, "You have to act as if it were possible to radically transform the world." The stories in our fest films reflect that possibility. Our collective actions will achieve that possibility. Our event will take place in 4 parts. We'll introduce you to some folks who will help us have a great discussion after the film. We'll then watch it together. Then afterwards, we'll unpack the film's themes in a facilitated Q&A with our wonderful panelists. Please participate by using the chat to share thoughts, ideas, or questions. We'll end by sharing concrete actions you can take to be part of the solution. These actions come from our panelists and other action partners. As we live current movements and reframe narratives around justice, environment, and bringing innovative, equitable solutions to our climate crisis, we're hopeful for the future. I am grateful to the knowledgeable filmmakers, film subjects, facilitators, and panelists joining this and other fest events. They'll guide discussions to help spark and sustain actions for the protection of our One Earth and for the just treatment of its resources and its people. We've found that shared agreements help keep our conversations safe and respectful. Please observe these agreements when participating. Put aside your preconceptions, acknowledge your privilege, internalize what you've learned, approach the conversation with respect. Engage your active listening, use I statements and get comfortable with your own story. Acknowledge Native peoples who came before us in protecting our land. One last thing before we meet our facilitator and program participants. If you're active on social media, tell people this is happening. Amplify these voices and be part of the community we're building here together. The hashtag for the festival is hashtag OEFF2021. Thanks again to all of you for being here. And now I'd like to turn it over to our facilitator to introduce themselves, the panelists, and our film.
Thank you, Anna. My name is Doug Dixon, and I will be your discussion facilitator this evening. I am a long-standing volunteer with the One Earth Film Festival and have served in numerous capacities, most often as a facilitator. I frequently joke that I am Anna's chief groupie. The purpose of my role is to facilitate dialogue. And you think that might be kind of bizarre if you came to watch a movie. But the purpose of the One Earth Film Festival is not just merely to entertain, but we believe that the thematic material involved in our movies will engage you, provoke thoughts, provoke feelings, and hopefully ultimately lead you to take actions to improve the conditions on this earth for it and all of its inhabitants, which includes you and me. Before we jump into the movie, I'd like to introduce you to a panel of incredible panelists that will help guide some of our discussion after the movie. The first one I'll introduce is Hamzat Lawal, who is the CEO of Connected Development, which is a Nigerian-based non-governmental organization. He's worked around the Great Green Wall for several years in tracking the impact of people and money flows around these big projects and programs. Next, I'd like to introduce Aliou Touré. Aliou is a vocalist and musician, lead vocalist, and member of the Songoy Blues Band from Mali, and he appears in the film. Last but by no means least, we have Lydia Scott, who works for the Morton Arboretum as the director of the Chicago Regional Trees Initiative. And now it will be my pleasure to introduce our film. The Great Green Wall is a 92-minute film that is hosted by a wonderful musician by the name of Ina Moja, that takes us on a journey from Senegal to Somalia to examine the conditions on the ground, the conditions of the people, as we attempt to fill in the Sahel, to provide a border between the savannah and the Sahara Desert. So please, please, please enjoy the movie, enjoy the music, and stick around for the lively discussion that will begin in about 92 minutes as we unpack some of the issues raised in the Great Green Wall. So without further ado, let's watch our movie. Well, welcome back, everyone. That was a powerful movie, both inspiring and disturbing in some ways. It affected me quite a bit. But that's not important how it affected me. What's important is how it affected you. If you could type into the chat box, what are some of the scenes, people, or lines in the film that you remember now? Scenes, people, or lines that you remember. Ooh, Erin's chimed in. She liked the point about how the Great Green Wall is possible, given everything else that humans have done to create massive structures over history. Excellent. Excellent. Got another comment that they were impressed by the greenery of the Tigray region. Okay, I was impressed with that also. Any other scenes, people, or lines that you remember? Dare to invent the future. I like that. Dare to invent the future. I think there's a line I'm going to walk away with. I got to remember what it was. I think it was something to the effect that the forest precedes man and the desert then follows. The loss of Lake Chad. Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Ethiopia stuck with us. I think Antonio noticed during the course of the movie that French colonization still affects its former colonies. Oh, Catherine, orphans she visited and how they shared their struggles with her and how they all sang and danced. Deeply moving and beautiful. Yeah, the beauty in the midst of the pain. Our wealth is our water. Oh, yeah, the tragedy of those going through Libya and being sold, tricked, raped, or killed. Oh, I like that. Kalia, great quote remembered. If your arm was infected, you wouldn't cut it off. You would come up with a solution. I like that. Thank you. Thank you. Any more good ones? Oh, that's not a good one. Oh, that's a good one. For those of you quantitatively oriented, got 60 million people might migrate by 2045 if we don't fix this. Thank you, Peggy. The need to dream. Imagine first, then the future will become a different reality. If we need to dream, we dare to dream, we can make a different reality. Thank you. Was anybody besides me moved by the guilt and shame expressed by the men that had left their homes and were not successful in getting to Europe and could not provide for their families. That was painful to me. Yikes. Thanks, Sally. When the power of love is greater than the love of power, there is peace. Maggie, I didn't keep the quote either, but I did say something about how what we plant now will be sown by the future generations. It's kind of why we're here. And Patty smiles on the people throughout Africa. The birth rate in Niger, 7-1. I think that's the highest in the world now. Resilience, yes. And I'm pretty sure there's a doc dedicated to the Manatee Gray who regreened the region. That was a powerful, powerful visual image. Going from the pestilence to beautiful greenery. Incredible. I thought it was incredible. Water is wealth. Yes. Anything you waste is lost. Excellent. Super. Probably take another couple of comments before I bring our panelists back. The music is powerful. Absolutely. I got sidetracked the first time I watched the movie with the music. There was actually a question about the music, and we'll answer that hopefully a little bit later. Dawn, treacherous journey through Libya. Yeah, men get killed, women get raped, and 1 in 10 actually gets back to Italy. The absolute pain of those who tried to leave to make a better life were betrayed and now have too much shame to return home to their families. It was touching to me. Touching to me. But you know, what I think we'll do is bring back our panelists. I was going to ad-lib their introductions, but unfortunately for me, their bios were written too well for me to ad-lib and improve. So I will introduce them one by one. I would first like to introduce Hamzat Lawal. Some people call him Hamzi after we get to know him better. He is the CEO of Connected Development, which is a Nigerian-based NGO. Hamzi is an activist who has successfully led grassroots campaigns in over 40 countries with over 9 years' experience in the nonprofit sector. Hamzi is also the founder of Follow the Money, a Pan-African grassroots-driven data movement, and leads a team of technology and innovation-driven campaigners to amplify the voices of marginalized communities in promoting accountability. The power of following the money. Welcome, Hamzat. Would also like to introduce at this time Aliou Touré, who in addition to Hamzat, who appeared in the movie, Aliou is a musician, lead singer, pretty major voice, and along with Omar Touré and Garba Touré, they're not related, they formed the band Songoy Blues from northern Mali. The band met and formed in Bamako after displacement from the north in 2012. Songoy Blues have 3 critically acclaimed albums, the latest of which, Optimistimi, didn't pronounce it right, speaks to the need for hope and optimism for the future. The proud ambassador for WaterAid, TreeAid, and appearing in the Great Green Wall, Aliou and Songoy Blues have helped to raise money and awareness toward providing relief in their native Mali, and continue to fight for progress and change everywhere. In America, Songoy Blues has been featured on NPR's Tiny Desk Concert and very recently on the Stephen Colbert Show. Welcome, Aliou. And last but by no means least, I'd like to introduce you to Lydia Scott. Lydia works at the Morton Arboretum and is the director of the Chicago Region Trees Initiative, which was founded by Morton Arboretum. The Trees Initiative is a regional coalition of more than 200 organizations working together to protect and preserve the urban forest to improve the quality of life. CRTI has set the goals to inspire people to value trees, increase the Chicago region's tree canopy, reduce threats to trees, and enhance oak ecosystems. The CRTI provides training, education, and outreach to communities, landowners, and managers, works to improve policies, local and regional plans, and promotes the preservation and protection of trees and their ecosystems. Lydia holds a Master's of Science degree from the University of Illinois in Environmental Science and has 25 years experience in conservation and urban forestry. She must have started at a very young age. Welcome, Lydia.
Thank you.
Welcome, Lydia. I have I won't say softball question, that I'd like to ask every one of you. The same question we asked all of our participants at home. Was there a scene, line, or person in the movie that stuck with you more than the pieces that you were in, Aliou and Hamzat? I'll start with Hamzat. Was there a scene in there that really affected you when you watched it?
Yes, definitely. For me, the scene was the impact of the growing insecurity and how this has affected particularly girls in northern Nigeria, and how this has escalated, affecting education and affecting livelihood. So this really stuck to me, because now we're feeling the impacts. It's not just environment; it's also educational. It's also loss of life, loss of family members. So the impact is quite huge and enormous, and this really stuck to me. And when you listen to the girls and losing loved ones and connecting to the environment and to all the insecurity and the porous borders, it's really heartbreaking.
Yes, I would agree. Yes. Thank you, Hamza. Thank you. Aliou, the question to you, aside from the piece of the movie that you were in, what scene, lines, or people really stuck out for you when you watched the movie?
Yeah, on top of what Hamza just said, one of the most important part of the movie for me is in Niger, when Inamoja went to see these guys getting ready to cross the desert to go to Libya and then Europe, and how tough it is, and to see that the fact that how important those young people could be for their own country and their hometown, and how there was constraint to leave that place and find a better life in Europe, and how that dream turned up to a nightmare for them. And I think it's a really important point to talk about it.
Thank you. It affects anybody that watches the movie with their heart. Lydia, same question to you. What scene, people, or stuck with you?
I think the comment that she made about sowing the seeds now so that others in the future can harvest them, I thought was particularly inspiring, because this is such a tremendous project and such a huge vision that the people that are actually working to make this happen realize that they won't be here when this vision is completed, but they're preparing for the future for others. And I thought that was very inspiring.
Yes, very inspiring. Thank you. I was personally impressed by the scope and scale of this project. I mean, an 8,000 mile long, 30-kilometer border doesn't happen in my lifetime, but it seems that this project has created ambition and hope in the minds of so many. So thanks for pointing that out to us. We have questions for our panelists. Some have been generated already. Those of you that have further questions for our panelists, please feel free to type them into the chat. We've got a few more minutes to go, and we've got some great expertise gathered for you today. Question for Aliou. What is the impact of climate change and desertification in terms of the current situation in the cities of Mali?
Yeah, I mean that's an important question to talk about, and I think even before people start think that the current situation, the conflict situation in Mali, depend of the political situation. It's not. It's not. That I think that is the consequence of um, an anger and hatred cultivated by the desertification. Why a hatred? Because in the center of Mali, there is different communities of people, different tribes. We got Fulani people, we got Dogon tribes, which is two specific and important tribes in the center of Mali. And also, as we know that Mali, the Sahel in general, is very well known as a point of agriculture, fishing, and also the agriculture and fishing and the land as well. And to see today those two fundamental points to be the main reason of the conflict in Mali, because years and years ago, um, the herders used to bring the animals, the cattle, as in English, the cattle in the jungle, in the forest. Right now, there is no forest anymore. Since 40 years ago, there is no more forest. So those cattle and the field of the farmers in town become refuges for cattle. So, which is a real conflict point for different community, because there is no more forest for those cattle to to live in the jungle. There is no jungle anymore. Everything is about desert. So right now, all the cattle are finding a refuge in farmers' field, which is not right. And right now, the farmers are trying to make a justice by themselves. And that's what's going on in the center of Mali. And now we're assisting in basically a civil war just from that climatic situation, which is a tough, a hard thing to talk about. And for me, it is important for people to know that the origin of that conflict is mainly from the changing climate. What is the most important for us as a musician to talk about, and also we want to state the different stage on board across the Sahel to communicate more about that situation, because the whole conflict in this area is about that changing climate.
Okay. And that is a service that you and the band play to communicate to people that listen to your music the issues that are pressing, not only in the forest and the desert, but in the cities. So thank you. To restate, the climate change has created economic shortages that create social stress throughout Mali, in the cities and the countryside.
Exactly. And when that happened, you can see in the movie how many thousands of young people just want to leave that part of their hometown to migrate to find a better life somewhere in the south
Yeah.
or in Europe.
Yeah. When you can't make it, you have to make it somewhere. Thank you,
Yeah,
Aliou.
and it is not. Mm,
Yeah,
you're
there are
welcome.
several questions that I'm going to try to boil into a statement and a question. Um, the initial statement was not many great green wall success examples. The film showed only one, which I think is the Tigray region. In my observation, it seemed as though there were many successful plots and small forest initiatives across the Sahel. It's not a giant infrastructure project, but small holdings that will hopefully link up over time. This leads me to the question that I've got for Lydia. What is the science behind the Great Green Wall, and how does a border of trees prevent climate change and desertification?
That's a loaded question.
Yes, it is.
I think really what it boils down to is it becomes an issue of the soil. Once the soil's gone, then you can't support plant life, you can't support people. And so as a result, this desertification occurs. You also have obviously the change in temperature and loss of water and things like that. But it really boils down to how the soil is so deteriorated that there are fewer opportunities to have these species be able to take hold. We know just from my little experience that where trees are located, we have shade, we have cooler temperatures, we have more moisture in the air, those kinds of things that can help offset impacts from climate. And certainly at the scale that this wall in Africa is looking to develop this green belt that runs across the entire continent. And the little bit of reading that I did in preparation for talking with you this evening was that it actually can create some changes in climate just by virtue of the evapotranspiration from the trees and the airflow and things like that. So it's a complicated process, but it's vegetation and it's re-enriching the soil, really.
Okay, rebuilding it and stopping it from blowing away. Thank you. There's a part B in my mind to the initial question, and that's doesn't appear to be great successes associated with Great Green Wall. But let me flip this question over to Hamzat. Hamzi, can you cite other successful stories along the Great Green Wall course besides just the beauty?
Oh yes, we've seen that around the green belts, like we call it, communities are taking ownership. They build a nursery. Now, in the history of the Green Wall, some of this country now have forest guard, where they're protecting species and also protecting the forest reserve. This has now provided an opportunity for economic growth, for creating jobs, for creating green jobs, and for also diversifying the economy. So today, with this opportunity, you're seeing communities coming together to work together, sharing lessons. You're seeing countries sharing lessons learned, also sharing challenges and working to curb migration, working to curb conflict, and just telling communities that we're building the communities to show solidarity. So when you travel across Mali, you go to Senegal, you come to Nigeria, and we're even seeing that some other countries are saying that we think we need to be part of this. It cannot just be 11 frontline countries. We need to expand this beyond this 11 frontline countries. And I'm excited that a lot of activists, campaigners, even government and civil society is seeing this as an opportunity to challenge themselves, to do better, to be better, and to leave the environment better than we found it.
Research I've done, Hamzi, I saw that Emmanuel Macron of France has pledged over $14 billion to the Great Green Wall project. As a person that studies the effect of money and graft and corruption, do you feel that this 14 billion will help accelerate greater progress in the Great Green Wall beyond the 15% that exists now?
Yes, it would help accelerate progress, but we also need to understand that we need the world to unite against Great Green Wall and make for the pledge. And in rebuilding back better, what we have learned is the fact that we cannot go back to the norms before. We need to ensure that the world rally around the Great Green Wall. Beyond just making pledge, we need to also see that this pledge, are remitted and brought forward. Most importantly, we need citizens to take ownership and also understand how this money is trickling down from France, from Europe, and how this money would not definitely find itself in private pockets. And to curb corrupt leakages, the 90% of corruption is on the contracting stages. So who gets the
Right.
contracts? Are they cronies of public officials? And how are these contract processes being awarded? Are they also publicly available data around what happens to this money and what these monies are meant to deliver on? Because for communities to take ownership, they must get publicly, must get data, and we're telling government to make this data open, because again, in revitalizing the environment, we're rebuilding public trust, getting communities to take ownership. So for me, we need to see a unified world as we rebuild back from COVID-19. And this also tells you that researchers need our forest reserve to ensure that our species are protected, so that in the future we will not have an outbreak of a pandemic. Because when you look deeper, it also has to do with the environment, and that's why COVID-19 have found herself everywhere around the world. So whatever affects Africa or whatever affects Europe or Southeast Asia affects all of us collectively. So we must not only make pledges, but also redeem these pledges and be transparent and accountable to them.
Okay. Very good. Very good. I agree. There was a question. I don't know how easily you can answer this. I think it's best for Hamzat. When this movie was made, the statistic cited is it is 15% complete. This movie was filmed maybe 2 years ago. What is the current status of the Great Green Wall project? Is it growing faster in spots than others? Has it stopped? How is it going?
It is slow. We've not seen tremendous progress like we would love to see it. We're not seeing enough investment. We're not having as much conversation. Just before the General Assembly in 2019, we launched the Great Green Wall movement, where Amina Mohammed and you have Amina Mohammed flying this global campaign, and then we had COVID-19 that slowed everything down. But we're hoping that from Djibouti cut across the 11 frontline country, we can see more investment and see more attention. Because again, when we talk about climate change, it's not sexy enough. When we talk about the Great Green Wall, a lot of people think, oh, it's in Africa, it doesn't affect us. Because if we don't talk about it and we don't invest in this, it's going to blow up. Imagine if half the population of Africa migrate to Europe. That's going to be a crisis that the world cannot manage. That's going to be a crisis that would literally affect world economies. So again, progress is really slow, where we're not getting enough investment and enough attention. But I believe this is an opportunity where, as civil society, as heads of state and heads of government, as activists and campaigners and filmmaker, and this film sort of also help raise awareness to say that the Great Green Wall affects each and every one of us. This is about survival, and if people cannot survive in their community and where they find themselves, they're going to try to migrate and go survive where you are and where you're comfortable. So we all have to make everyone comfortable and provide equity and justice, and most importantly, protect our environment that unites all of us.
Made several times during the movie is drawing a connection between the economic and climate conditions and the unrest in Boko Haram and terror, that people that don't have jobs and can't provide for their families are easily attracted to other things. So to hit that off at the source, maybe we need to fix some of these climate catastrophes. There's a really hard question in my chat box that I would love to wait to ask, but I think it is very important. A simple question from Amy. What can we do to help? What can people in the States do to assist in this project?
What can you do to help? Add your voice. There's a lot of campaign to raise resources and to plant trees across the Sahel. There's also campaigns, to amplify what's happening in sub-Saharan Africa. You can also join us to ensure that we hold world leaders to account. It's not enough to pass resolution at the United Nations. It's not enough for heads of state and heads of government to sit and have this conversation. But how are this conversation translating into action on the ground? How are you playing your own role to ensure we hold our government to account? How are you ensuring that you're able to support this campaign and this movement where we can plant trees to help ensure that we can capture carbon and have cleaner airs around the Sahel? Because again, the more you support this, the more we can save the lives of women and children. Because in Africa, over 95,000 women annually in Nigeria, for instance, die from smoke from cooking with firewood. Today, we're losing over 1.5% of forest reserve. It's desert encroachment. So each and every one of us, our colleagues and campaigners in the US, have a tremendous role to play. The world has to stand in solidarity with us.
Yes.
Yes.
And in addition to standing in solidarity with the people of Africa on the Great Green Wall, there are many things that people can do locally, I believe, to address climate change and degradation, environmental degradation locally. One of our panelists spends a fair amount of her time for the past 10 years studying not desertification, but degradation environmentally in the Midwest. And would like to ask her, what are some of the ways that people can engage locally to reduce the impact of environmental degradation? Lydia.
Well, there are a lot of things that individuals can do, and it's important that you know, no matter where you live, if you own land or don't own land, even there are things that you can do to improve the environment where we are here in the Chicago region. So, for instance, if you do own land and you have an opportunity to increase tree planting on your property, we suggest that you do that, and that you think about species diversity, because species diversity is very important. We've just lost 13 million ash trees in the Chicago region due to a single insect infestation. And it's important that we think about expanding diversity so that we don't have these catastrophic losses and continue to lose our forest over time. It's important too to look for opportunities to volunteer and to help in forest preserves in your local community and other communities. We have areas within the Chicago region that have very low canopy. It ranges from 3% to 66% across the region. And so there are equity issues that come into play that we need to be aware of. So just simply taking some simple actions to plant a tree or to help care for a tree can make a significant impact.
Okay, thank you. I would agree. And we can all make a difference. Yeah, because we replaced so much in the Midwest with concrete that we could all take steps. Aliou, got a couple of questions, or a question for you. You're a musician, but you're also a social activist. You're committed to the project of the Green Wall. How did you put in your mind and the rest of the band's mind that you could, through the message of music, affect people's minds and lives?
I think for me, as a for us as a musician band, our role is to communicate about the subject, because right now in Mali, there is more communication about civil war, about conflict, about coronavirus around the whole world, more than the changing climate, about more. There is more communication basically about over things more than the desertification, which is basically in the source of the whole conflict, the source of the migration, the source of conflict, the source of many, many things. Hunger, Bob Marley said in his lyrics, hungry man is an angry man. And how about if people sit down and think that those guys up there, those hungry guys up there, that hunger is from the desertification. We need to communicate more about that to bring some campaign, a lot of campaign, instead of put everything in the hand of NGOs like Hamzat is doing. He's doing a great job. And like United of Nations are doing. How about the states who are concerned? I think the different states need to communicate more, need to do more campaign about plant trees across the Sahel. And I think it's not impossible if they can put that type of communication in the program of school, in the school program for kids to learn and to know how important it is to plant the trees, or for the kids to know the impact of the changement of climate on the security and the whole situation we are in. And I think the communication is a huge point to focus on, because right now when I wake up in the morning, when you put the TV on, like, you will hear everything, every kind of information about civil war, about Boko Haram, about Mujaho, about this, that, but never about plant trees across the Sahel, which is very, very important. It is about to survive.
Thank you. What your statement reminds me is that we got to get our message into the minds of the people. And if the people are reading,
Yes,
then you put something. If the people are watching TV, then you put it on TV. But in the States, I think a lot of my people listen to music. And if it's in the music, the next thing you know, you'll hear them singing it. So
yeah,
thank you for that.
exactly.
Um, I'm getting some pings to look at the clock. Oh gosh, I just looked at the clock. It's not good. The point of this whole film series, the whole point of the whole film festival, is to engage people in positive actions to impress, to impact Earth, make her a better place. What are some of the ideas that you could suggest, especially in the context of the movie, that people can do to take action on some of the themes that were in the movie? I will start with Aliou. What are some things that people could do? Give me one thing.
On top of plant trees, I will come back. I will come back to that communication, and people need to hear about the importance of the message, the importance of the project, because still much of the people don't know about the project. Apart from some NGO, some people from the government, but the project need to come in front of the table. It need to be on the table as a priority. I mean, one of the priority to communicate about it.
Okay. Plant a tree, use your voice. I am going to shamelessly plug you in that I know Songoy Blues is an active band. You have at least 3 albums out, and one of my chat box wants to know if they can buy your albums in the States. Your albums are for sale?
Yeah, sure. You're
Some
all the 3 albums are on sale, and the last
very good.
one is called Optimism.
Optimism. See, I knew I mispronounced it.
Yes.
Lydia, I'll pick on you now. Give me a good
Okay.
action, something people can do.
Well, I think we need to be cognizant of our daily actions and how we interact within with the environment that we're in, and recognize that we need green space around us for our mental health as well as our physical health. And certainly those of us that live here in the States have many more blessings and opportunities than those folks that are in Africa and experiencing this severe desertification. But we need to recognize that it's these constant vigilance and constant action to improve the health of our environment that's going to make an impact. And so if you can find a small way to have some kind of an impact, whether it be, as I mentioned, to plant a tree or to reduce the use of pesticides and herbicides on your property, or to hold water on your property instead of letting it roll into the storm sewers and out into the streets. There are a number of actions that you can take as an individual to make a difference. And certainly there are opportunities within your own community for you to volunteer and to support that work.
Super. Doesn't have to be a big deal. Can be a small thing. Thank you.
That's right.
And last but not least, Hamzat, give me an idea. What can we do?
What can we do? We need to take ownership collectively. And in taking ownership and taking responsibility, we need to look at how we've lived our life and how we can live our life in a way that we can conserve energy, reduce the use of water, plant a tree, name the tree after yourself, so your grandchildren can connect, with their parents or grandparents. So for me, as we do all of this, let's also follow the money, because the money will get to find answers to all the question marks.
Show me the money. That's a famous line. It always works in the United States. Thank you, Hamzat. Those are all great ideas. Take action. Take small actions as doing some small things and follow the money. We have compiled a number of ideas that I'd like to show the whole participant list on taking action. If we could flip the slide, there are some additional actions that we've talked about. Let me see if I can pull that slide up. Connect with nature. Oh gosh, I can't read this very well. Excuse me. Some of the ideas we had was go out, connect with nature, the open lands guide, live lightly on the earth. I think Hamzat mentioned this very specifically, is probably starting with conservation. Maybe we don't need to use as much that we always do. I think Aliou mentioned very specifically, let's communicate and learn, use our voices to advocate for better conservation, better environmental work, and less waste. Those are some of the ideas that we've had. And what we will do at the One Earth Film Festival is send a file with this entire presentation and all of these chat notes to your emails as you registered. What time is it now? 8:55. Get back to my main slide. Sorry. So that's the take action slide. So let me see if we did our jobs tonight. I think Anna said, I know I've said, um, the point of the One Earth Film Festival is to inspire us to take action. Our motto this year is to inspire change. So the test of the work we've done tonight is please share in the chat box that you are ready to make and inspire change by doing what? Name something that you can do to help make the world a better place. We will share this out with everyone, sending them to your emails. I don't get to see those. Oh gosh, where's my chat log? What single step would you make your top priority? Let's go back to the action slide, Garen. Let some people take a look at that. Connect with nature, live lightly on the earth, communicate and learn, and use your voice. We got lots of comments flying in on the chat box. Reduce, reuse, recycle. More reduce, reuse, recycle. Um, the last slide in the deck will actually show the URLs for all the great organizations represented. Please do some research, buy some records. I do know Inamoja has 4 or 5 albums out on Spotify. I've seen Songoy Blues a couple of times. So extremely, extremely grateful for all of your participation. Hamzat, I think it's now 4 o'clock in the morning where you are, so thank you for joining us. Aliou, God bless you, brother. Thank you for your help and your love and your music. Lydia, thank you for your participation. And to all the participants, thank you for showing up. It is vital to me to connect with people that love the earth and love each other. So my battery has been charged this evening. Thank you so very much. Please continue to support the One Earth Film Festival. We're running until the 14th. There are still several great movies in the offering, and I look forward to seeing you in the participant room for the rest of the movies for our season. Thank you very much and have a great evening.